The envelope from Riverside Community College felt impossibly light in my hands. Inside was my acceptance letter to their nursing program, not Stanford's medical school where I'd been accepted 3 months ago. But it was something. A way forward. A chance to still help people, even if it wasn't quite the dream I'd planned. "You don't have to do this," my brother Michael whispered from his hospital bed. "I'll figure something out. Maybe another clinical trial." I shook my head, forcing a smile. "It's done, Mikey. I already transferred the money this morning. All $287,000 of my college fund, carefully saved since I was born, meant to fund my medical school dreams, now redirected to pay for my brother's experimental cancer treatment, a treatment our parents had refused to help with, claiming they couldn't afford it. "It's too risky," Dad had said, not meeting our eyes. "The success rates are too low. We've already spent everything we can. He'll die without it." I'd screamed, waving the doctor's reports at them. "This is his last chance." "Then maybe it's God's will," Mom had whispered, crossing herself. "We have to accept." "No," I'd stood up, my hands shaking. "I don't accept that. Not when there's still a chance." That was 3 months ago. Now I sat in a hospital watching my little brother sleep, his body finally responding to the treatment I paid for. The treatment that had cost me my future, my parents' love, and any relationship with my family. The day I'd transferred the money, Dad had called me into his home office. The same office where he ran the family's successful construction company, where he taught me about business and responsibility since I was old enough to understand. "You're making a mistake," he'd said, his voice cold. "That money was for your education. For your future." "Michael's life is more important than my future," I'd replied. "And what about our family's reputation? Taking money meant for education and gambling it on an experimental treatment? What will people think?" I'd stared at him, unable to believe what I was hearing. "Who cares what people think? This is about saving your son. It's about responsibility," he thundered. "About respecting your parents' wishes. If you do this, if you throw away your future on this foolish gamble, don't expect any more support from us. No more allowance, no more car insurance, no more living at home. You'll be on your own." "Fine," I'd said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I'd rather be on my own than watch my brother die when I could have helped." Mom had cried, begged me to reconsider. "Think about your future, Deanna. Medical school has been your dream since you were 10. Watching my brother die has never been part of that dream," I'd responded, walking out of their house for what I thought would be the last time. Now 3 months later, I was working 2 jobs, waitressing and night shift at a convenience store, while taking prerequisites at community college. My tiny studio apartment barely fit a bed and desk, but it was mine. Paid for with honest work, just like everything else in my new life. The doctors were cautiously optimistic about Michael's progress. The experimental treatment was doing exactly what they'd hoped, shrinking tumors that had been declared inoperable. He even started talking about going back to college himself once he recovered. Our parents hadn't visited him once since I paid for the treatment. Their form of protest, I suppose. Or maybe they couldn't face the evidence that they'd been wrong. "Miss Anderson." A nurse poked her head into the room. "There's someone here to see you. Says he's your parents' business partner." I frowned. "Frank Davidson?" She nodded. "He's quite insistent." Frank had been Dad's partner in Anderson and Davidson Construction for 20 years. He'd been like an uncle to me and Michael growing up, always bringing us presents from his business trips, attending our school events when our parents were too busy. I found him pacing in the hospital waiting room, looking older and more troubled than I remembered. "Diana," he said, pulling me into a quick hug. "You look tired, kiddo." "Working 2 jobs will do that," I replied. "What brings you here, Uncle Frank?" He glanced around the waiting room, then pulled me into a quiet corner. "There's something you need to see. Something I've been struggling with since I found out what happened with Michael's treatment." He pulled out a thick folder from his briefcase. "These are financial records from the company, specifically from a special account your father set up 3 months ago." I took the folder, my hands trembling slightly as I opened it. Inside were bank statements, transfer records, investment documents. "I don't understand," I said, scanning the numbers. "This shows a transfer of $500,000 right around the time Michael needed the treatment. But Dad said they couldn't afford." "Keep reading," Frank urged quietly. I flipped through more pages, my confusion growing. "These are receipts for A vacation house in the Bahamas? A new yacht? But how could they afford this if they couldn't help Michael? Frank's face was grim. There's more. Check the source of the funds. I turned to the original transfer document and felt my world tilt sideways. The money had come from a trust fund, my trust fund. Not my college fund that I'd donated to Michael's treatment, but a separate account I'd never known existed. Your grandmother left it to you, Frank explained softly. It was supposed to be given to you on your 25th birthday. Your parents were trustees, meant to manage it until then. But they used it to buy themselves luxury items while claiming they couldn't afford to save their own son. My voice cracked. How could they? That's not all, Frank said, pulling out another document. Look at the date they transferred the money. One day after you used your college fund for Michael's treatment. Almost like they were punishing me, I finished, feeling sick. They let me sacrifice my future, my dreams, when they had access to money that could have saved Michael without costing me anything. Frank nodded sagely. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you. It's not right, Deanna. What they did isn't just morally wrong, it's legally questionable. As trustees, they had a fiduciary duty. My phone buzzed, interrupting him. A text from my mother. Coming to see Michael tomorrow. Please don't be there. We need family time with our son. Family time. After 3 months of ignoring him, of letting me work myself to exhaustion trying to build a new life while caring for my brother, they wanted family time. I looked at the documents in my hands, then at Frank's worried face. Uncle Frank, I said slowly, I'm going to need copies of everything. And maybe the name of a good lawyer. He reached into his briefcase again. Already got them right here, kiddo, and I know just the person you should talk to. I hugged the documents to my chest, thinking about all the nights I cried myself to sleep, believing I'd lost my family's love by defying their wishes to save my brother. All the times I doubted my decision while working double shifts on 3 hours of sleep. Little did I know, this was just the beginning. What I would discover about my parents' financial dealings over the next few days would shake our family and their precious reputation to its very foundation. The law office of Patricia Chen specialized in trust litigation. Her corner office overlooked the city skyline, but she barely seemed to notice the view as she reviewed the documents Frank had provided. This is quite something, she said finally, looking up at me. Your parents didn't just misappropriate your trust fund. They've been systematically moving money around for years, setting up shell companies, hiding assets. But why? I asked. The construction company is successful. Why would they need to hide money? Ms. Chen spread out several documents on her desk. Look at these dates. The first irregular transfers began right after your grandmother passed away. She left significant assets to both you and your brother in trust, with your parents as trustees. My hands shook as I examined the papers. Michael has a trust fund too. Had, she corrected grimly. Your parents emptied it 2 years ago, right around the time his first symptoms appeared. They used a complex series of transfers to make it look like the money was being spent on legitimate medical expenses, but our forensic accountants traced it to personal purchases, vacation properties, luxury cars, private jet memberships. I felt sick. So when they said they couldn't afford his treatment, they had already spent his money on themselves. And when you stepped in with your college fund, they celebrated by spending your trust fund too. Can we prove all this? Ms. Chen's smile was sharp. Oh yes, your Uncle Frank has been keeping very detailed records since he first noticed discrepancies in the company books. Plus, we have something even better. She pulled out one final document, an email chain between my parents and their private banker, dated the day after I paid for Michael's treatment. Need to move Dee's trust fund immediately. She's proven herself untrustworthy with money, choosing to waste her education fund on her brother's foolish medical gambles. We'll put the money to better use. Please advise on most discreet transfer methods. The banker's response was professional but clear. Strongly advise against this course of action. As trustees, you have a legal obligation. Please confirm you understand the potential consequences. My parents' reply, just do it. She's made her choice. Now she can live with it. They put it in writing, Ms. Chen said softly. Their intent to punish you for helping your brother by stealing your inheritance. In my 20 years of practice, I've rarely seen such a clear-cut case of breach of fiduciary duty. I stared at their words until they blurred through my tears. What do we do now? Now? She began gathering the documents. Now we prepare for tomorrow's family meeting, the one your parents don't know I'll be attending. The next day, I arrived at Michael's hospital room early. He was sitting up in bed, looking stronger than he had in months. "Are you sure about this?" he asked as I set up my laptop. "Once we do this, they need to face what they've done," I said firmly, "to both of us." Frank arrived next, carrying more files. Then Ms. Chen, elegant and imposing in her court attire. We were ready when our parents walked in. Mom stopped short at the sight of us all. "What is this?" We said we wanted family time. "Oh, this is definitely about family," I replied, turning my laptop to face them. "Specifically about how you've been stealing from your children." Dad's face darkened. "How dare you?" "No," I cut him off. "How dare you? How dare you steal Michael's trust fund, spend it on luxuries while he was dying? How dare you punish me for saving him by stealing my inheritance too?" "We did no such thing," Mom protested. "That money was—" "Right here," Frank interrupted, laying out bank statements. Every transfer documented. Every dollar tracked. "Would you like to explain the shell companies, the hidden accounts, the suspicious timing of certain luxury purchases?" Dad turned on him furiously. "You betrayed us. After 20 years? No, Robert, you betrayed your children. I'm just helping expose the truth." Ms. Chen stepped forward. "Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, I'm Patricia Chen, trust litigation attorney. We have clear evidence of breach of fiduciary duty, misappropriation of trust assets, and potentially criminal financial misconduct. Would you like to discuss this here or in court?" Mom sank into a chair, her face ashen. Dad looked like he might explode. "You ungrateful," he started, but Michael's voice cut through the tension. "Why?" My brother's question was simple but devastating. "Why did you steal my money and let me think I was going to die because treatment was too expensive? Why did you let Diana sacrifice everything to save me when you had the means to help? We were protecting you both." Mom burst out. "That experimental treatment, it was a risk. We didn't want you wasting your inheritance on something that might not work. So you spent it on a yacht instead?" I asked incredulously. "On vacation houses and private jets." "We earned that money," Dad shouted. "All those years managing your trusts, dealing with investments. As trustees," Ms. Chen interrupted coldly, "you were legally and ethically bound to manage those funds for your children's benefit, not your own enrichment. Would you like to see the penalties for this level of breach?" She laid out another document, a draft lawsuit with potential damages that made even Dad's face go pale. "You have two options," she continued. "One, we take this to court. Every detail becomes public record. Your reputation, your business, your standing in the community, all destroyed. You'll likely face criminal charges for financial fraud. Or," Mom whispered, "or you sign these papers now. Return every penny taken from both trusts with interest. Transfer control to an independent trustee, and step down from any involvement in the construction company." "You can't do this," Dad protested weakly. "The company is my life's work." "The company has my name on it too," Frank reminded him, "and I have enough documentation of financial irregularities to trigger a full audit. Your choice, Robert." I watched my parents' perfect facade crumble as they realized the depth of their exposure. All their careful deceptions, their manipulations, their cruel power plays, all unraveling in a sterile hospital room while their son watched from his recovery bed. 3 hours later, they left in defeat, having signed everything Ms. Chen put in front of them. The empire they built on stolen trust funds and broken trust was over. "What happens now?" Michael asked into the heavy silence. "Now you focus on getting better," I told him. "The trust will be properly managed by an independent trustee. Your treatment is fully funded. And when you're stronger, you can go back to college. What about you? Will you go back to Stanford?" I smiled, feeling truly light for the first time in months. "Actually, I've been thinking. This whole experience, it's shown me something about myself. About what really matters." I pulled out my Riverside Community College nursing acceptance letter. I still want to help people, but I think I can do that just as well as a nurse. And this way, I can start sooner, work while studying, really understand healthcare from the ground up. Michael reached for my hand. "You're amazing, you know that. You gave up everything to save me, and somehow you made it into something positive. Not everything, I corrected him. I gave up money and a specific path, but I gained clarity. Understanding of what real family means, not control and manipulation, but sacrifice and support. Frank cleared his throat. Speaking of support, the company board met this morning. We'd like to offer you a position, Diana, Special Projects Manager, focusing on our healthcare facility construction division. Your perspective as someone who's seen healthcare from the patient advocate side would be invaluable. I stared at him. But I don't have any construction experience. You have something better, he said firmly. Integrity. Compassion. The ability to see what really matters beyond dollar signs and status symbols. That's what we need as we rebuild the company's reputation. 1 year later, Michael is cancer-free and back in college. I'm halfway through my nursing program, working part-time with Frank's company to help design more patient-centered healthcare facilities. Our parents, well, they're living in a modest condo now, all their hidden assets returned to their rightful owners. Yesterday, I received an invitation to a charity gala, my first major public event as part of the company's new leadership team. The theme? Building Hope. Healthcare facilities for the future. I showed it to Michael during his weekly dinner visit to my small but comfortable new apartment. Going to be awkward, he noted. Mom and Dad will probably be there. Lots of their old society friends. Good, I said firmly. Let them see what real success looks like. Not yachts and vacation homes bought with stolen money, but honest work that actually helps people. He smiled. Think they'll ever understand what they did wrong? Maybe not, I admitted. But we do. And that's what matters. I pinned the invitation next to my nursing program acceptance letter. 2 pieces of paper that represented choosing integrity over ease, purpose over status, real family bonds over superficial appearances. Sometimes losing everything you thought you wanted helps you find what you really need. Sometimes the hardest betrayals lead to the clearest revelations. And sometimes standing up for what's right costs you a false family but builds you a stronger, truer one. Next week, I start my pediatric nursing rotation in the same hospital where Michael received his treatment. Life has a way of coming full circle, showing you that the paths you never planned can lead to exactly where you were meant to be. I may not be heading to Stanford Medical School anymore, but I'm building something better, a life based on truth, integrity, and real purpose. And no trust fund in the world is worth more than that. The restaurant business is built on secrets, secret recipes, secret techniques, secret deals made in back rooms over glasses of wine. But the biggest secret in my family's restaurant chain wasn't written in any cookbook. It was the truth about who really created our success. I'm Elena Romano, former executive chef and now ex-COO of Romano's Italian Kitchen, a chain of restaurants my family built from a single neighborhood trattoria into a regional empire. At least that's what the official story says. The truth, like most family stories, is more complicated. It started in my grandmother's kitchen 50 years ago. Nonna Maria didn't just cook food, she created magic. Her tomato sauce was legendary in our Little Italy neighborhood, people lining up around the block just to get a taste. The recipe was her closely guarded secret, passed down from her mother in Naples, or so everyone thought. The reality? Nonna Maria created that sauce recipe herself, experimenting late at night after long days working in other people's restaurants. I know because I was there, perched on a kitchen stool at age 8, watching her add pinches of this and dashes of that, taking careful notes in my little notebook. Remember piccola, she'd say in her thick Italian accent, a recipe is more than ingredients. It's love, it's timing, it's knowing when to follow the rules and when to break them. By the time I was 12, I knew that sauce recipe better than my own name. Nonna Maria made sure of it, teaching me every subtle variation, every seasonal adjustment. My father Thomas, her only son, was too busy with the business side to learn. My brother Marco was more interested in playing restaurant owner than learning to cook. The sauce is the heart of everything, Nonna would tell me. Without it, we're just another Italian restaurant. With it, we're Romano's. She was right. When my father opened the first Romano's Italian Kitchen in 1985, it was Nonna's sauce that made us special. As we expanded to more locations, that sauce remained our signature, our secret weapon. Every batch had to be made by either Nonna Maria or, increasingly as she got older, by me. The business grew rapidly through the 1990s and early 2000s. 5 locations became 10, then 15. My father handled the business expansion, Marco glad-handed with investors, and I ran the kitchens, protecting the quality of our food, especially that sauce. Nana Maria passed away in 2015, leaving me as the only person who knew the complete recipe. All our other chefs had versions of it, but never the whole thing. Key ingredients were pre-mixed at our commissary kitchen. Certain steps were kept deliberately vague in the manual. It was safer that way, Dad always said. Can't risk our secret getting out. What nobody knew was that Nana had legally transferred ownership of the recipe to me years before she died. The sauce belongs to the cook, she'd said, making me promise to protect it. I filed the paperwork away, never thinking I'd need it. Then Dad had his heart attack. It was sudden, massive, leaving no time for goodbyes or final instructions. One minute he was complaining about the cost of imported olive oil. The next he was gone. The family was devastated, but business doesn't stop for grief. I thought the succession plan was clear. I've been effectively running operations for years, maintaining our quality standards while introducing new menu items that kept us current. The customers loved us. Our profits were strong. Our employees stayed forever. Marco handled marketing and public relations, which suited his personality. But I underestimated my brother's ambition and my mother's blindness when it came to her only son. The shareholders' meeting was scheduled for 1 month after Dad's funeral. I spent that time keeping our restaurants running, making sure our customers and employees felt secure despite the change in leadership. Marco spent it lobbying board members and making deals. I should have seen it coming. The signs were there, hushed conversations that stopped when I entered rooms, secretive meetings I wasn't invited to, sympathetic looks from longtime employees. But I was grieving, distracted, still believing in family loyalty. The meeting started normally enough. Standard reports, financial updates, moment of silence for Dad. Then Marco stood up to present his vision for the future. Romano's needs to evolve, he announced, pacing the conference room like he was giving a TED talk. We need to think bigger, expand faster. Push into new markets, streamline operations, maximize profitability. I felt a chill as he outlined his plans. Cheaper ingredients to cut food costs. Simplified menu to reduce kitchen complexity. Pre-made sauces from a commercial manufacturer to ensure consistency. But the sauce, I started to protest, is a relic of the past. Marco cut me off smoothly. Charming family history, but not scalable. Modern restaurants need modern solutions. I looked around the room, seeing heads nodding. Even my mother, who'd practically lived on Nana's cooking, seemed convinced. Furthermore, Marco continued, this transition requires strong, pragmatic leadership. Someone who can make tough decisions without being emotionally attached to outdated methods. And there it was, the knife sliding between my ribs with surgical precision. The vote was quick, clinical. Marco as CEO, supported by a new executive team of his choosing. My position as COO would be eliminated, replaced by a streamlined management structure. You'll be taken care of course, Marco said afterward, all fraternal concern. A generous severance package, consulting fees. Maybe you could write a cookbook. I sat there, numb, as he outlined my professional funeral. Mother patted my hand, murmuring about how this was for the best, how I could finally have a life outside the restaurants. They didn't understand. The restaurants were my life. That sauce was my heritage, my connection to Nana Maria, the heart of everything we built. I left the meeting in a daze, barely registering the sympathetic glances from employees who'd already heard the news. In my office, I stared at the old photos on the wall, Nana Maria and me in the original kitchen, Dad cutting the ribbon at our 10th location, family celebrations marked by food and laughter. My phone buzzed with a text from Marco. Need you to transfer all recipes and procedures to new corporate chef by Friday, especially the sauce details. Time to pass the torch. That emoji felt like a slap. He thought he'd won, thought he could just take everything our family had built and turn it into another soulless chain restaurant. He'd forgotten one crucial detail, something Nana Maria had taught me long ago in that tiny kitchen. Some secrets are worth keeping. Some recipes belong to the cook. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a folder I hadn't looked at in years. Inside was a document filed with the patent office the year before Nana died. A legal registration of intellectual property signed by Maria Romano and witnessed by her lawyer. My hands didn't shake as I took a photo of the document and sent it to our family lawyer, Mr. Rossi. His response came within minutes. Meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. Don't sign anything. Don't give anyone any recipes. I looked around my office at the life I'd helped build, the legacy they wanted to erase. Marco thought he was getting everything. He was about to learn that some things can't be bought, sold, or stolen. Even the best sauce needs time to simmer. Mr. Rossi's office hadn't changed in 20 years. Same leather chairs, same photos of Italian landscapes, same faint smell of espresso. But this morning, something was different. Maybe it was the extra people in the room. Along with Mr. Rossi, there was a patent attorney, a restaurant industry consultant, and surprisingly, Tony Martelli, our head of operations who'd been with us since the first location opened. Thank you all for coming, Mr. Rossi began, sliding on his reading glasses. We have an interesting situation here. Interesting was an understatement. Over the next hour, the patent attorney confirmed what Nonna Maria had set up years ago. The sauce recipe wasn't just a family secret. It was a registered trade secret, legally assigned to me. The restaurant chain had been licensing it all this time through a separate company Nonna had created, with me as the sole owner. Your grandmother was quite clever, the patent attorney said, reviewing the documents. She structured this to protect both the recipe and your position in the company. The licensing agreement requires the sauce to be produced under your direct supervision, using your approved methods. Tony cleared his throat. That explains why she always insisted Elena oversee sauce production, even after we grew to 15 locations. The restaurant consultant, a sharp-eyed woman named Sarah Chen, had been studying our financial reports. The sauce isn't just your signature item, she said, looking up. It's the foundation of your entire menu. Marinara, vodka sauce, the special Sunday gravy. They all start with this base. Without it, we're just another Italian chain. I finished echoing Nana's words from so long ago. Mr. Rossi leaned forward. Marco has called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. He's planning to announce his new partnership with national food distributors to supply pre-made sauces to all locations. My stomach turned at the thought of our restaurants serving mass-produced sauce from a factory. Can he do that? Not without breaching the licensing agreement, the patent attorney said, which would allow you to withdraw permission to use the recipe at all. That would cripple the business, Tommy warned. Our customers come for that sauce. They can taste the difference. Exactly, Sarah nodded. And here's something else to consider. I've reviewed the expansion plans Marco presented. He's leveraged the company heavily, borrowed against projected growth from 30 new locations in the next 2 years, all based on cutting costs and streamlining operations. I saw where this was going, so if the sauce suddenly wasn't available, the projections would collapse, she confirmed. Along with the financing, we spent the next few hours developing a strategy. By the time I left Mr. Rossi's office, I knew exactly what I had to do. The boardroom was packed the next morning. Marco had brought in his new executive team, all sharp suits and PowerPoint presentations. Mother sat in her usual place, looking uncertain. I noticed she was wearing the necklace Nonna Maria had given her on her wedding day. Marco started his presentation with typical flair: growth projections, market penetration strategies, cost-cutting measures. The sauce change was presented as a minor operational detail, barely worth mentioning. And with these new efficiencies, he concluded, we project expanding to 50 locations within 5 years. The Romano's brand will become a national powerhouse. The board members looked impressed. Mother was beaming. Marco shot me a smug smile as he sat down. Any questions? The board chairman asked. Just one. I stood slowly, placing Nana's original recipe book on the table. Has anyone reviewed the licensing agreement for our signature sauce? Marco's smile faltered slightly. That's just a formality. All recipes and processes belong to the corporation. Actually, Mr. Rossi said, entering right on cue, that's not correct. He distributed copies of the licensing agreement to each board member. The sauce recipe is owned by a separate entity controlled by Elena Romano. Its use by Romano's Italian kitchen is subject to specific conditions. The room erupted in confusion. Marco's face turned red as he snatched a copy of the agreement. This is ridiculous, he sputtered. Mother, tell them this can't be right. But Mother was staring at the signature page at Nonna Maria's familiar handwriting. She never said, she whispered. Nana understood something you've forgotten, Marco, I said, keeping my voice calm. A restaurant isn't just a business. It's a promise to our customers, a connection to our heritage. That sauce isn't just a recipe, it's our grandmother's legacy. The new executives were whispering urgently to each other, reviewing documents on their tablets. I knew what they were realizing, how dependent their plans were on having access to our signature sauce. The licensing agreement is very specific, Mr. Rossi continued. Any change in sauce production methods or ingredients must be approved by the recipe owner. Furthermore, production must be overseen by Elena Romano personally. We'll challenge it, Marco snapped. Corporate owns all intellectual property. You can try, the patent attorney said, joining us. But during the legal process, which could take years, you would lose the right to use the recipe at all. How do you think that would affect your expansion plans? Sarah Chen stepped forward, presenting her analysis of how losing the sauce would impact the company's projections and financing. The numbers weren't pretty. I watched Marco's face as his perfect plan crumbled. The board members were murmuring, shuffling papers, shooting concerned glances at each other. His new executives looked increasingly uncomfortable. There is another option, I said quietly. All eyes turned to me. The restaurants work because we balance tradition and progress. The old and the new. I've spent years modernizing our kitchens, improving efficiency while protecting quality. We can expand, but not by sacrificing what makes us special. I laid out my own plan, measured growth, maintained quality, innovation that enhance rather than replace our traditions. As I spoke, I saw heads nodding, saw the board members remembering why our restaurant succeeded in the first place. And the sauce, Marco demanded, stays exactly as Nana created it. Made fresh, made right, made with love. That's not negotiable. The board's vote was unanimous. Marco's expansion plan was rejected. His new executives were thanked for their time and dismissed. I was reinstated as COO with expanded responsibilities for maintaining quality across all locations. And my brother? I asked, watching Marco storm out of the room. Will remain as head of marketing, the chairman said, where he can focus on his strengths without overreaching. Mother caught up with me after the meeting, tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry, Elena. I should have seen what was happening. It's okay, Mom, I hugged her. We all miss Dad. We all want to honor his memory. We just had different ideas about how to do it. That evening, I went back to the original restaurant location. The dinner rush was over, but the kitchen was still warm, filled with the familiar scent of simmering sauce. Tony was there, checking inventory like he'd done thousands of times before. Just like old times, he smiled. You know, your grandmother told me this would happen someday. Said Marco had your father's ambition, but not his heart. Said you had her spirit, the soul of a true cook. I opened Nana's recipe book, running my fingers over her handwritten notes. She taught me that a recipe is more than ingredients. Sigh, he grinned. It's love, it's timing. And knowing when to follow the rules and when to break them, I finished. 6 months have passed since that board meeting. Our restaurants are thriving, expanding thoughtfully into carefully chosen locations. Marco has actually proven to be a better marketing director when he's not trying to run everything. His latest campaign about authentic family recipes made with love is our most successful ever. Mother spends more time in the restaurants now, sharing stories about Nana Maria with our staff, teaching them that good food is about more than profit margins. Sometimes I catch her in the kitchen, closing her eyes as she smells the sauce, smiling at memories only she can see. Yesterday, a food critic wrote that Romano's manages something rare in the restaurant industry, growing without losing its soul. He called our sauce a taste of tradition in a modern world. Nana Maria would have liked that review. She always said a good sauce, like a good life, needs the right balance of ingredients. Sweet and sharp, old and new, tradition and innovation, all simmering together to create something special. Last week, I found my old childhood notebook, the one where I carefully recorded Nana's lessons. On the last page, in her handwriting, was a note I'd never noticed before. Remember, Piccola, the secret ingredient isn't in the sauce. It's in the heart of the cook. Guard it well. I'm teaching my niece how to make the sauce now. Marco's daughter Sophia, just turned 8, perches on the same kind of kitchen stool I once used, scribbling in her own notebook. She has Nana's eyes, bright and curious, watching everything. Why do we add the basil last? She asked yesterday. Because some things can't be rushed, I told her, stirring the pot slowly. They need time to develop, to become what they're meant to be. She nodded seriously, writing it down. Another generation learning our family's real secret that the best recipes aren't just about food. They're about love, tradition, and the courage to protect what matters most. Marcos stops by sometimes, watching Sophia learn the family legacy he almost destroyed. I see regret in his eyes, but also understanding. He's learning too, in his own way. The sauce still simmers in our kitchens, still brings people back again and again. But now everyone knows why. Not because of secret ingredients or clever marketing, but because every batch is made the way Nana taught me, with patience, with pride, and with love. That's one recipe that will never change.